Hello, everyone. You are listening to the award-winning To Hull and Back podcast, proudly sponsored by Old Zoological Bar and Kingfisher Fish and Chips in Hull. I'm your host, Nathaniel, and tonight I'm joined by Ant and Joe during the international break to look ahead to, Tim Volter probably getting sacked in a few weeks' time, potentially, and then also a big interview that Acun has done about Tan Kessler, though not really, Zambrano, although not really, and then no real manager news because he's not sacked him. So, of course, I'm a little bit more, happy than I was last week. I've been on holiday and England have just won 5-0. But now I'm getting a bit depressed again, remembering what state Hull City are in. So, Joe and Ant, how are you guys doing?
Good, yeah. Good. I think a good place to start really is over the course of the last week, for those who are watching, listening, who haven't seen, what did you hear that got us very excited early on last week?
What, with the Schumacher news? Yeah. Well, it's just obviously a case of you don't know, do you? Either he turns around and says he don't want the job, either we decide that we can't afford to sack Volter and or go for Schumacher. I didn't like what Schumacher. There's loads that we probably reached out to more than one, which is realistic because if we're not going to sack him this international window, which it looks like we're obviously not going to, it's quite smart to have some people lined up in the next 3 or 4 weeks in case we have to. Obviously, best scenario is Volter wins the next 3 or 4 games, and we're not talking about sacking him because we string some results together and it starts to click. But judging on what we've seen, over the last 15 games, what do we think is more realistic? Us winning the next 3 or 4 games, or going winless for the rest of 2024? So it's it's one of them where they've probably reached out and tried to get a few just to see if there's anybody interested in coming in and taking over when the time comes. But it's quite obvious that he's not going to do that now for reasons I'm pretty sure that we're going to get into.
Yeah. And then there was a second thing you said on the internal restructuring that Mike White hinted at a bit ago. Acun expanded on that a little bit in his piece with Baz. When Baz asked him, what can you say about Tan Kessler's sudden departure and the internal restructure? I imagine that what can you say means it's court proceedings, so there's not a lot that people involved can say if we believe the reports in the Turkish press. But moving on, Acun said, quote, in football, what I see in many clubs are the professionals changing like the football players. Everybody in business life can change and new people can come and go. This is the situation in clubs all around the world, and I don't think there should be any worry from our fans about running the club operationally. I'm sure they believe in me because they've believed in me from the first minute, and now I hope they believe in me to make a new organisation inside the club. We have Mustafa Yokes, Mertan Agel and Berry Pardo, who have all been here from the early days with me. We also have Jared Dublin, who came to us from Stoke. I really believe in his future role inside the club. I think he will be one of the most important figures of British football in the future. He's young, energetic, and I'm sure when time goes by, our fans will understand that we have good people inside the club. There's been zero concentration loss from my side about Hull City. On that, Ant, what did you hear about Jared Dublin's position within the club?
We were told that it started off with a message, really. It was just like, I see Jared Dublin's got a promotion for you guys. And I was like, has he? Because we've not said anything as a club yet. Obviously, we've not announced anything. It was like, apparently he's your new sporting director. And I was like, oh, well, that's interesting because we've definitely not said anything as a club yet. But then obviously Mike White tweeted and said about there's an incoming internal restructure. So it looks like he's going to be the new sporting director. I think he was head of recruitment, wasn't he? So
he was, yeah.
In terms of like changing the setup of what is going on behind the scenes, it's looking likely that they're going to do a few promotions from within. Whether they bring anybody else from the outside to fill in any of the roles that end up being left from that is obviously yet to see, or if they bring in somebody from sort of the outside of it back in. Obviously, but I think Jared Dublin's looking like he's going to be the sporting director, which I thought was going to make a very good sort of interlink with Schumacher coming in, because those two worked together at Stoke apparently before and enjoyed working together. So I thought him coming in as sporting director would have been perfect for that incoming Schumacher. But obviously that's not happening at the minute.
We have lost Nathaniel for the time being, but you and I will continue. Off the back of that, I said from the moment Tan left, the person who would replace him would be Barry Pardo. And I used what you said to confirm my long-held suspicion. Barry Pardo, although he was brought in as head of performance strategy, his LinkedIn says he was promoted to sporting director in July 2023. And if Jared Dublin's taking that role, that suggests a promotion, whether it's to the same title as Tan was as vice chairman, or whether it's some other made-up title that they bring in like they did when they made him up, when they brought him in. Because, like, what on earth is a head of performance strategy? But so that's what we think here that the internal restructuring is. And I can shut up now because Nathaniel is back.
Well, I hope he can hear me okay. The Wi-Fi here's been
much
awful. I mean, I agree with everything that's been said. I have no idea what's been said. I've not been listening.
We're talking about the internal restructuring, obviously, with Dublin potentially becoming the new sporting director, and then Barry Pardo coming from sporting director to probably vice chair, is what the assumption is, if that's the case.
I think it was always going to need a bit of restructuring, even if Tan Kesler hadn't left. Because, I mean, years ago when Acun came in, we had Jim Rodwell, and things seemed pretty stable then. I mean, you know, with Acun, it's never really stable. He's always saying the wrong sort of thing. And then with Kesler going, I'm not surprised that there would be some restructuring. And, of course, all the things that happen off the pitch define what happened on it. And even if Kesler had stayed, the recruitment, I know Acun in the interview said that it's been very good. I mean, us fans might disagree with some of that, but I'm not surprised that, well, from a manager perspective, he'd sack Rossini, get Volta in, maybe another manager soon. But if we've not got promoted, then maybe we need to look at how the club is structured outside of the team as well. So, if it's to create a link with Schumacher coming in, if he does, then, you know, that sounds like a pretty solid bet. It'll be very interesting to see what happens in January, because we're going to need to spend a lot of money. I think we have a lot of money to spend, and maybe we'll spend it differently to how we would have done with the new structure.
I think mentioning Jim Rodwell there is a really interesting one. Like, when Acun came in, he had a small stake in Fortuna Sittard's worth of experience in terms of football. Tan worked as an agent and for the Turkish FA.
And he was the one developing those relationships with the other clubs, wasn't he? Villa and Juventus and etc. Not sure. And then Acun was really more on a player base rather than with the actual clubs.
But then you look at Barry Pardo's experience. He started off as an intern at ING Bank and a marketing intern at Coca-Cola. He was then head coach of Turkey's under-16s futsal team before becoming under-15s assistant coach at Galatasaray, then 2 analysts for statistical websites, Match Study and Opta, then moved to Crystal Palace as a first-team analyst and scout, then was promoted to recruitment analyst and head of first-team recruitment analysis at Crystal Palace, then moved to Trabzonspor, head of performance analysis and recruitment, a scout then back at Crystal Palace, head of performance analysis at Fenerbahce, a coach and head of analysis at Istanbul Başakşehir before coming into us and being head of performance strategy and then sporting director after that.
That's quite some CV.
That's quite some CV. And it doesn't speak of lots and lots of experience running a football club at boardroom level. So, you hope that some of what Tan was doing also involved him. But I still think, and no one will shut up about this, we need someone like Jim Rodwell back in there as a CEO to help these guys. And I think Tan suffered in the summer as a result of Acun being busy with Fenner, no head of recruitment until mid-August. And again, just that sort of lack of extra support in terms of the day-to-day running of a football club from someone with experience doing it. So I think not getting someone in like that is naive on Acun's part, but do I think he will? Absolutely not, because that means bringing in someone from outside who could challenge what's going on. And Adi said it on Tigers Talk the other week. For the want of a better phrase, promoting from within means they're already in, and to an extent, yes men. So it's easier to bump pay packets up and change job titles.
Of course, it means somewhere else we're going to have to recruit someone else because they've moved from another position. So it's just sort of passing the buck, isn't it? I don't know if they're coming in with new ideas.
Promoted, don't we need another new head of recruitment?
Yeah, must be. Unless they're going to do two jobs, which is worse than what we would have had initially, probably. Who was it on TalkSport when Acun was the owner, became the owner, who said that we'll be in League Two in like a year or two? I mean, it's taken a little bit of time to get to this situation, but there are lots and lots of, at the moment, they're probably red flags. I don't know whether outright problems because it's still relatively early in the season. We do have money we can spend in January. We're not bottom of the league. Maybe some fans will say yet, but there's a lot of warning signs. And I mean, Donnie McDonald there has commented, how can we all see this? And yet, the problems, and Acun can't. And it is very concerning that I think if Acun was the owner, even if we were in the same league position, if we'd had a different manager, if we'd sacked Volta quicker, perhaps, although of course he hasn't been sacked yet, and the Tan thing hadn't happened and he wasn't at Fenerbahce, we'd look at it differently. But, there are real concerns and, it's bad off and on the pitch at the moment. Usually it was just one or the other. I mean, I'm not really sure whether there's a point to this, but the more you think about it, it's very concerning at the moment, isn't it?
It is, but I think the more concerning thing is that there doesn't really seem to be any, well, from my perspective anyway, there doesn't really seem to be a clear plan as to what he wants us to be doing or where he wants us. I know from the start he said he wants us to be in the Premier League. Obviously, that's the be all and end all goal of where he wants to get us. But it's the getting there that's the problem for me. So what is it that he actually wants us to do? We've raised this question before. What style of player does he actually want us to be playing? Because obviously he got rid of McCann because he felt like the fans went behind him, which to be honest, we wasn't, but he would have been a safe, stable manager to keep on for the rest of that season that he took over. But he decided to make that big gamble, brought in Shota Arveladze, who had no experience of English football for apparently his style of football, which was horrendous. And we were really, really bad.
Wasn't a style, was it really?
No, yeah, and what I couldn't actually tell you to this day what Arveladze's style was.
Have it bobble off Estepinian into the goal.
We were just bad. Like that's realistically what it was. But I couldn't even see what he wanted us to do. Then he brings in Rosinho, brings in a bit of solidity, a bit of consistency. We do really well, stays up comfortably. Last season, obviously, was, in some respects a success, in some respects a failure, depending on which way you want to look at it with the quality of players we had and the position we were in for the vast majority of the season that we finished it, etc. But we had we had a style of play. It might not have been the most attractive. It might have been pretty tedious at home, especially. But then again, he's come out and said that style of play is not what I want. Got rid of him to bring in Tim Volta. Now this style of football, right? Again, it's just every single style of football that we've had as a manager under Acun has been completely different. So what is it that he's actually looking for? Because there isn't even similarities. The only similarity between this one and Rosinho last season is the amount of time the ball spends with the back four. Apart from instead of giving it to the midfield, we give it to the goalkeeper. So there's slight differences in it, and we're far worse defensively, definitely. But like what does he actually want us to be watching every week? Where does he want us to go? Like, because for me, the biggest thing about obviously the question the interview we did with Baz was that he's happy with this style of play, and that confuses me, because the thing that confuses me most about what he said to Baz was everything that he said could have been used to apply to keep Rosinia. So he's bemoaned the injuries, even though the two wingers have only been fairly recent, so they've not really had a grand
impact. One match, right?
Yeah, exactly. So they've not really had a massive impact on, like you talked about Rushworth, but Panda's been our best player this season. I would say we'd probably be bottom of the league if it weren't for him. So I don't
100%.
know. We've not even seen him play, so that's a weird one. Luck again last season, loads of times. If we'd have just been slightly more lucky in some games, officials as well. Both games against Norwich last season.
We have to let it go.
Where we could have, there are examples of all of the things he's used to defend Volta this season that he could have used to defend Rosinia. So he's kind of contradicting himself in that sense for me, which is the biggest takeaway I got from all of that, and why I'm just not behind anything he said in that. Because if he'd came out and said, look, I know it's really, really bad, but I'm going to give him some more time because I feel like on my behalf, this summer transfer window was really bad. We had a lot of things going on in the club that, held us back a bit. And we accept that we're a few weeks behind the rest of the league in this respect. And it's going to take a little bit more time for us to get going. Then fair play, but he didn't. He came out and said, oh, yeah, it's the injuries. It's the refs. It's a little bit of luck in these games. When, I'm watching these games, I'm thinking it's not, though, is it? Like, one clean sheet all season isn't down to luck. It's down to poor defending or poor system.
Absolutely.
There's absolutely no accountability on Volta and his style of play from either Acun or Volta, and that's the most annoying thing for me. Is like none of them have come out and gone, yeah, maybe this isn't right. Whether that's Acun's ego, I don't know. Volta obviously is, because he just will not accept that his style of play is anything but perfect. But
even though it's not actually succeeded anyway, he didn't get promoted in Germany with it.
No, but I think barring the 3 games where we won, I think someone said we scored like less than 10. Like in the rest of the games, and we keep conceding. So it's.
But Ballooni's out, Miller's out, Oscar's gone. I think we have 7 goals in our team this season from players who are actually here, something like that.
Just on
our defensive midfielder is our joint top scorer.
Yeah.
That's damning, really.
Mm-hmm.
Pedro, if you get the ball into the box to him, he can head a ball. He's good in the box, but he's not agile enough to do the whole pressing and what have you. But you also can create just one chance for him and expect him to score that one chance every single game.
What he had against Portsmouth and West Brom, and that's pretty much it. Yeah, you're quite right.
That's all. The 2 chances he's had in his entire time on the pitch for City, and he scored both. So fair play to him. But just looking back, I've been doing some digging, and it's locked me out of my LinkedIn, weirdly. But I could get in far enough to see that Jared Dublin has officially changed his job title to sporting director.
Is that on LinkedIn?
So that is on LinkedIn. So, so that is just a matter of it being officially confirmed by the club. And just on injuries as well, Nathaniel, you mentioned Miller and Balumi. And an excuse Acun uses, as Ant said, is injury crisis. But I don't necessarily think the injury crisis should be used as a get out of jail card for Tim. Because Miller and Balumi, yes, are losses. But
we have other wingers.
We have a lot of other wingers. Acun has invested a lot of time, clearly, in Dokan Sinek. And things were going downhill before Miller, and crucially, a long time before Balumi got injured. And then what? That leaves Stephen Alzate, who's had about 5 minutes off the bench against Coventry and about 15 minutes off the bench against Norwich. For me, you can't classify him as a loss yet because...
He's not a pivotal player. He might be awful.
He's not played. He's not being a pivotal player. Same can be said for Carl Rushworth, because he hasn't played. He's played 45 minutes against Alanyaspor. You can't class that as a loss. Andy Smith wouldn't have played. Neither would Tim Lottatala or Harvey Cartwright, with the greatest of respect to all those three.
Correct.
Miller, Balumi, yes, are losses. Kamara, only
Malin.
injured for a game, don't really count. Well, no, still counts, but only been injured for a game. Malum, for the manager, will feel like a loss, but he was in poor form and just sort of coasts through games. And
he's
then
Foden.
what?
He's Foden at the Euros. He is. Yeah.
So what? Who does that leave? Who's been injured? Longman, who was good in pre-season.
But when he was injured, and he's actually come back now when the other wingers have been injured, so that cancels out completely. That's a positive.
So
Get out of jail.
As Ethereum says in the comments, it's good squad depth, but you can't say that's an injury crisis that's massively affecting the team. If both Alfie Jones and Charlie Hughes are out, we were missing. I mean, there's obviously Zambrano in there as well, who I'm sure we'll get onto. If Louis Coyle was out, Slater and Puerta, at that point, you could say that's an injury crisis because you've got 5 there of your most starting player, another 5 starting players on top of Balumi and Miller who are injured. That's an injury crisis. But Alzate, who's played 10 minutes, Rushworth, who's not played a competitive game, doesn't constitute an injury crisis.
That first Rosenior season
Smith don't constitute an injury crisis.
We had about 10, 15 strikers and wingers that were injured under Rosenior and Shota. You know, that first season, whereas now it's not the same.
Yeah, that's the most annoying thing about it. Like I just said, like if Rosenior in summer, he made that decision to get rid of him, but Rosenior could have turned around and said, yeah, but I lost Philogene for a month and a half. I lost the last 6 months. You know, I didn't have a left back for the first 6 months of the season.
We had 3 or 4 penalties we missed.
Yeah, look, that's what I mean. I feel like the reasons he gave to justify keeping Volta on are cop-out reasons for something else, which I don't know. Can we afford to sack him? There's loads of different things I'm reading into it because you cannot defend the current manager by saying the same things that would have defended the previous manager. It just don't make sense to me. Like
just in a different tone of voice.
Yeah, he's a more intelligent man than that. I just don't understand why he's put himself in that situation to be saying stuff like that when the fans know full well that you could have said it last season. Like I wasn't totally against the Rosenior sacking. I could have understood if we kept him. I didn't mind that we got rid of him, but you had to get the replacement right, and we haven't. So why didn't he just come out and say, yeah, all right, fair play. I took a bit of a gamble. I got it wrong. I thought this guy would be the one. He's really not. You know, we're going to go in a different direction now. We'll get another manager in and we'll try and get a bit of stability back. But he hasn't. He's doubled down on it. And that, to me, I don't get it.
Well, I don't think you need to read much into it at all, to be honest. I think the excuses are a veil for Acun desperately wanting this to work out because if it works out, it makes him look like a genius. But the fact it's not working out at the minute, if he were to sack Walter, that would mean admitting a mistake. And
the obvious thing was to keep the senior. That was the safe bet, wasn't it?
And I don't think Acun's pride and hubris, or whatever you want to call it, ego, wants to admit he's made a mistake yet.
He's a passionate guy, isn't he? So
while he can find these excuses, and Monco Man says in the live chat that more by performance than I look at results. If it was all like the Norwich game, I'd be worried. But the thing is, we can put decent performances
don't keep you up, though, do they?
Like we did against West Brom. But like you say, Ant, they don't keep us up. And we were the better team in that West Brom game, arguably. But we still didn't win. And the fact of the matter is, the body of work we've got so far, the 15 league games plus the game in the Carabao Cup, doesn't show a sign that we can win games consistently at this level.
Yeah, but that argument's confused me for a while now. I've spoke to City fans whilst I've been out and about, in City Centre when we've been sat in Mackey's with the kids and that this weekend. And there's a few that swear by this. Yeah, but the performances are good. Okay, fair. Yeah, in some games we have been really unlucky.
They're not great.
In some of the first halves, we have had games where we've created a lot of chances. We should have been outside at Oxford, shouldn't we? Games like that. The second half, we were absolutely dreadful. And Pompey and Burnley and Sunderland probably as well, where we've had really good first halves. The players have been wasteful. We give away a cheap goal. We end up losing or drawing the game. Yes, all right, fair play. But playing well for 45 minutes of a game isn't good anyway. It needs to be over 90 minutes. You've got to manage your game better. And then if you're going on performances, all right, fair play. Let's say we play well every single game from now to the end of the season, but we get relegated. Are we happy with that? Just because we played well every game? Is that a defence for Ad? Yeah, but Adjun saw the good result. We know it's really good performances. We were really unlucky in some games because we missed 7 or 8 golden chances every single game. But we are in the bottom 3 and we're going to League One. Nice one. The results do matter. Yeah. Football is a results game. You've got to find ways of winning. All right, maybe we've got loads of injuries. Good managers find a new way of winning with the players that they've got. He is not. He's still playing the same way, like he's got the same players. Like McCann did when we got relegated. Like Rosinia did last season. Like Shota did. You're playing the same way, the same system, expecting the same results from different players. It doesn't make sense. You've got to play different ways with what you've got available to you and who you're up against. This is why Corberan's such a good manager, because every single game he sets up differently, depending on who he's got available and the other team's strengths and weaknesses and how they set up in that way. That to me makes a good manager, not being incredibly stubborn and playing, yeah, but we're playing all right, fair play, yeah, we'll get relegated, but we're playing sound. I don't get it.
The thing is, what you said there, Ant, it's so correct, because good performances, no lack of effort, this, that, and the other, it speaks of a team sleepwalking into a relegation battle. When you feel like on the pitch, you're doing X, Y, and Z right, you're putting the performance in, but you're not winning games. And that reminds me of two seasons in particular. The second half of 1920 under McCann, when we'd lost Bowen and Grzycki.
Who would have thought we'd get relegated from being 8th internally? I'm sure, even though you lose Bowen and Grzycki, I'm sure McCann and everyone at the club will, let's still fight for top 10, let's fight for playoffs, because that's where we were. And it's like they didn't believe it was possible, because no one is ever too good to go down.
And, well, look, I think against Wigan, you can say there was no lack of effort. Well, there was a lack of effort, sorry. But in a lot of those games, the players were giving it what they've got, and McCann kept that team on side. But we still went down for whatever reason that was. And then it also reminds me of Shota Arveladze's first chunk of the 22-23 season, where it's a team of totally new players who don't seem fully behind the manager, and the results show it. And Coxie mentions in chat, Walter outing Jarvis on social media. It's not so much what he said that's an issue. He says, look, he's got the potential to do brilliant things in the game. He just needs to apply himself. But there's a difference with how you say it. You have a one-on-one conversation with him. And I mean, Harry says there, he deserves to be called out. Clearly keeping things in-house hasn't worked all year with him.
Yeah. So, Joe, what has happened with Jarvis?
I think what Tim's saying is he's not picking him because he needs to see more effort in training. Some days he's fantastic. Other days he just sort of drags his heels in. And that, to me, with him being a young player, is not something you say publicly, because the club have shafted Will Jarvis this year.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
The League of Ireland isn't a particularly good standard. I accept that. I admit that. But Jarvo was enjoying his football there. And we pulled him back because Abdush got injured against Reading. Longman got injured against Reading. Oscar got injured against Reading. And we were panicking that they wouldn't all be fit. Abdush and Oscar were. Longman wasn't. And we pulled Will Jarvis back unexpectedly when it looks like Shelburne were about to win the league, and they did. And there's no reason. Jarvo's played once since the end of the transfer window. He got a few minutes at the end of the game against Portsmouth. And
it wasn't worth it for that point of the season. In a transfer window when you can sign players. If you do that in like February or something, don't you?
Do you not think Sincere Hall could have done that job? Who, yes, is out on loan in North Ferriby's league at the moment, but was with the first team all pre-season. And I understand City pay his wages and not Shelburne and what have you, but if the manager doesn't seem to endear himself to players, then players aren't going to want to play for him.
Slater said he hasn't even talked to him, face to face.
I mentioned this a few weeks ago that I can't remember what game it was, but Liam Rosenior pulled Ozan Tufan off at halftime. And he said in his interview afterwards that I hate pulling players off at halftime because it doesn't seem, it's not sort of fair and it's harsh, but I had to do it for tactical purposes. I spoke to Ozan, he understands it, it's for the good of the team, and we're cool. We haven't seen Tim do that with Slater. Bairstow, I've seen Scotto just put in chat there. He's done the same with Bairstow. Asked why he's not in the team, says because he's not good enough. But then you put him in the team.
Or we just looking that
position.
You put him on the wing as a young player. It doesn't really make any sense when we've got other wingers. Go 4-4-2 and put Slater on the wing or Palmer, who can actually play there. I don't understand putting Bairstow on the wing. Makes no sense to me.
And I mean, Harry's just put in chat here. I'd usually say keep things in house, but Jarvo's attitude is disgusting. Like,
how does Harry know that? I'd say we don't really know, do we?
With them. And look, it's what happened to like giving players an easier ride because they were one of our own. I swear that was a thing last season that we spoke about some players evading criticism. Jarvo's come through our academy. He's one of the best players I've seen play for us at under 21s level. Yet the manager says one thing about him in the press, and some of the fans are split on it. Why is it not all right? We'll give him another shot because he's our young lad. We've developed him. He's been with us since like under 12s, under 13s. But what? It's because he throws his arms around, doesn't track back. He's not played. He's not played since players have come in and they've had a chance to adapt more to the system.
I'd be frustrated if I was him because I would have liked to have been in Ireland playing football rather than be on the bench for 3 games.
And winning a league title.
Yeah, I'd be annoyed. And playing for this team, it's not exactly like we're a fun team to be part of. But
you still got a job to do, haven't you? If you are recalled by your parent club at the end of the day, you still got to perform to the best of your ability every minute that you're on the pitch. That is a valid criticism. If you're going to come on the pitch and not do your best, then yeah, you deserve to be criticised. But if he's so bad and if Walter's so not happy with what he sees from Jarvis, then why isn't he demoting him to the under 23s and not involving him? Like the best way to manage that, rather than coming out in public and saying, yeah, the guy's garbage or whatever, just deal with it by saying, right, until you sort yourself out, you go play with the youngsters. You've got an opportunity to play for the first team in the Championship. You've got a really big opportunity now because our 2 main wingers are injured. There's a stake to be made for both of these wingers now. They're up for grabs. Someone's got to go out there and take the impetus to get that position and make it their own. Now, if you want to be part of it long term, go and show it to me. If he's not, then that's his own fault. He gets dropped. That's how football should be managed. Like, I just this season, I mean, you just look at a lot of performance. I mean, Malem, he's been poor game after game after game. If he wasn't injured, he wouldn't have been dropped. He'd still be playing. Yeah. So what happened to dropping players because they're performing badly now? They always come out and say, yeah, but if you drop him, it makes them feel worse. No, it should inspire you. That then speaks about their character. Why would you want a player at the club who just spits his dummy out because he gets dropped because he's playing badly? It's your job. You're an employee at the end of the day. Like, if you're not performing to the best of your ability, you're not contributing to the team in a positive sense, you're not going to play. And if you spit your dummy about it, then you're not going to be here for much longer, because that's just not the right attitude to have. You should be getting dropped. This is the thing about Giles for me at the minute. He should be absolutely wounded that he's getting dropped for a right back.
Yeah.
He's meant to be one of the best left backs in the league. He gets his opportunity at Oxford. Shocking. Like, why is he not absolutely infuriated that he's not playing in left back? This is a perfect opportunity for him to play week in, week out as a natural left back, and he's just not doing it. Like, why would you want them characters at the club? You want somebody who gets dropped and says, I don't like this. I'm going to prove everybody that I'm good. They're the kind of people that you want playing for your team. So if anything, it's just doubting out the kind of players that you don't want here. That's how I see it.
Just on Paul's comment there about Jarvis's performance at Leeds, it was poor. I accept that it was poor, but it was a poor change to make. Leeds were just getting on top of the game, and he brought off. He made 2 really attacking changes as Leeds were growing in confidence, and that put Jarvis in a really difficult position where he subbed Regan Slater off, and Jarvo didn't necessarily have a buffer behind him. But Ant's also right in terms of attitude generally. I just think with Jarvo being a young player and the way the club have treated him this season, I think that should have been kept in-house. Just quickly now, Oscar Zambrano and the situation with that and January. Acun said, the Zambrano case is the same as we talked about before, and the club will not suffer any damage. At the moment, nobody can say anything solid because of the legal process. The boy's accused of doing something, and there's no reason for this boy to use this kind of thing. He was an international player when we signed him, so we are protected by it. We have no damage, and in January for sure, we'll make a new number 6 transfer. It's going to be tough in the recruitment, given the league position, but I'm sure our fans will keep believing in us when they remember the players we've brought into this team. Our recruitment side, if you ask me, has been very successful since we came to the club. This year, our investments have been good. Unfortunately, long-term injuries to Miller and Bellumi have damaged our project. We're here for the fight, for the best, and to give everything for Hull City. We'll push hard for the new players, and I have no doubt that we will bring good players again. Few things there. We are already overloaded in central midfield. I don't think we need to sign another midfielder, another central
Simons
midfielder.
has been doing all right, hasn't he?
And
maybe for cover, but
yeah,
and Alzate to come in. We've got
especially when we don't use the midfield. Why
exactly.
Players for a position we don't play. They're just people that run around on the grass for no reason. So
I understand why he didn't want Seri, because Seri actually touched the ball, and that's clearly not what Volta wants. So, yeah, it's not surprising.
And just on January again, it looks to me like Acun is going to keep Tim on for the foreseeable. I think he's here until February, March, to be honest.
He can't afford to. But if we don't win the next, if we lose our next 3, for example, there is no way.
Because we'll be second bottom.
He can keep him here till January.
100%. Because we spent a lot of money for a non-perishable payment club. We've actually spent a fair bit again. You know, we're a team that's trying to get into top 6. And if we're joint with the, relegation zone or in it after the next 3 games, you can't stay. If you'd lost the first 5 games, 10-0 of the season, he would have been sacked regardless of anything. It's a results business. Acun may be stubborn, but he's not a complete moron. Fingers crossed, touch wood.
Let's hope. But to me, this speaks of, right, I'm going to back him again in January because injury crisis. And like I've said, what crisis? And he's got
to get him a striker.
It speaks to a broader issue at the club for me. Just Acun going out in January, right, we've lost Zambrano, let's buy another midfielder. It speaks to a broader issue at the club, and it goes back to the academy. I was at the under-18s yesterday, and I was talking to one of the players' dads about this. The pathway under the Alams was clear that players could progress into the first team. Now that pathway doesn't exist. And if Zambrano's banned for the foreseeable, instead of buying another midfielder, because we've got enough cover there already in players we've signed this year, why doesn't Rocco Coyle spend more time with the first team? Or why doesn't Lucas Dawson go and spend some time with the first team? But we're not. We're just going to buy another one. And I imagine we'll go and buy more wingers instead of giving an opportunity to Jarvis, Hall, Harry Vaughan. If we're looking lower down in the 18s, you're looking at, this is a push, but Ramel Carter, Stan Hewitt. And it to me speaks of Acun thinking, right, let's spend the money and then or get a player in on loan, then you're developing another club's player.
Because we said in the summer we liked all the permanent chancellors, but because of the injuries, I'm sure striker and winger, maybe number 6, probably going to be on loan, aren't they?
And it just to me doesn't make any sense to sign another midfielder when Rocco was with the first team in pre-season. He's got a first team squad number. Use him, have him around, have him as depth. But we won't. We just won't. Because
what the worrying thing is that we seem to be as a club since the takeover is we will just sort of go transfer window by transfer window. There's no
long-term plan.
You should recruit in summer for a season. January should be emergency signings or just to get you over the edge or that extra bit of quality to keep you up kind of thing. You shouldn't really have to be buying anybody in January because
last January we treated last January like a summer transfer window.
Yeah, and then we'll sign loads of players this January, and then in the summer we'll struggle with money and say, oh, it's because we spent loads in January, and then it's just this stupid cycle every single season. Every transfer window will bring in stupid amount of players that stay here for no longer than 2 years. Half of them are injury ridden, and like what is it? Someone said that we've only got one player left from that first 30-player summer transfer haul that we did.
From that first transfer window, we've got Sinek, Lottatala.
Sinek does not count.
We've got Sinek, Lottatala, and Xavi Simons.
Simons has been all right.
They're the only 3 we've got left from that.
So it's one. We've got one player then, haven't we?
If you look, well, Tim's just got a new 4-year deal.
Yeah, we've got 800 goalkeepers. He's not playing.
And then you look at last summer, who have we got still left from that? Ruben Vinagre? No. Jason Lakilo? No.
Yuck.
Delap? No. Philogene? No. Morton? No. Bora? No. Connolly? No. Twine? No. Allsop? No.
Is it no one?
I haven't got the list to hand of exactly who we signed last summer.
I genuinely don't know. It might be no one. Fine, I'm going on to Fox.
And it's the same case as well, that the players that were with us from the League One era are our most dependable and reliable players.
They are.
Coyles, Jones.
We need to sign Elder and Honeyman in January to start.
Elder, no, but I won't mind Honeyman, to be fair.
Let's go through it. Signings from last season. Vinagre, no. Giles, yes, that's 1. Aliyah, well, no. Signings since Acun took over. Who's still here from the squad last season? Vinagre, no.
We haven't got enough time.
Giles, yes. Tufan, no. Aliyah, no. Ohio, no.
And still
Fiore,
here.
no. Cynic, yes. Sharp, no.
Cynic does not count.
Yes. Morton, no. Longman was... No, I'm not counting Longman. I'm not counting Longman because he was initially at the club under McCann. Also, no. Simons, yes. Oscar, no. Delap, no. Lakilo, no. Philogene, no. Seri, no. Fairlong, yes, but out on loan. Smith, no. Slater was technically signed under Acun, so yes, but was a McCann signing.
Yeah.
Panda, yes, that's 6. Twine, no. Coville, no. Lottatala, yes.
I mean, this is a long list, but if the recruitment has been, if Acun says the recruitment has been quite good, then how come all of the players have left?
Well, if we count Slater and Longman, right, from the January Acun took over, which we shouldn't do because they were already at the club before, that's only 10 players out of the nearly 40 that we've signed under Acun that are still at the club. In the case of Philogene,
small army.
We signed him and got him for profit, but the rest, they're all loans or we've made massive losses on them.
I mean, someone's work.
I think Nathaniel's dying. To be fair, when Ryan Longman came on against West Brom, I thought he looked really good.
He did.
Listening
he should
on
have
the
had
cruise
an assist
ship
immediately as well if Pedro had got on the end of his cross. He looks determined. He looks like he's got a point to prove. He was direct. He was a menace to the fullback for the remainder of the game that he came on for. I thought
it's not a surprise, is it? Because he is world class. So.
Well, yeah. He might have tailed off towards the end, but you don't know like if he was disillusioned with the football, the style. But I mean, if he was disillusioned with the style back then, he can't be much happier now, can he? But but Longman did look good, and like we say, with Bloomy and Bloomy and Miller's injuries, he's got an opportunity to nail down a starting position.
At least Kamara might finally be able to play on the right wing.
Yeah. Longman and Kamara look like our best two options at the minute, but you guarantee he'll play Bairstow and Omer. Just as Tim Voller.
Hey, we've got
another question. Sorry,
coming back.
Oh,
I genuinely want either Baz or Mike to ask this
Swarthing.
question of Tim in his pre-Luton presser. Uriel Felli's loan at Universitario has finished. They have won their league. There is no playoff game to be played or anything like that. He genuinely, the next game of football he plays could be for Hull City. Let's ask Tim if he even knows who he is.
Not a chance. I want to see Selly and Cynic on the wings with Sellers flowing in front. That'd be great. Lots of Longman comments flooding in. It's like I've all my bot accounts of
he's not been indoctrinated into waterball yet. Exactly.
Yeah.
Before you know it, he'll be turning around and giving it to Panda.
Gosh, yeah, he will be.
Wow.
Someone a while ago said odds on Giles being sold in January. I'd say
high.
100%. 100% we'll try.
We won't tell him. I think we'll learn him. We'll learn him to somebody like Borough if they're still in the top. If they're still in a promotion race, they'll learn him with an option to buy in summer or something if they go up.
I think that's
how I see it. Though.
Yep.
We won't tell him, and we just wasted £4.5 million on a guy who's clearly not a left back. But our recruitment's amazing.
Are we
£9 million, by the way, has been spent on Ryan Giles and Dirk and Cynic.
It's probably a little less than that, isn't it? But not significantly less. Wasn't it? I don't think we spent £4.5 million. It was €4 million on Cynic, wasn't it? So it'd be £3.5 million, but
just under 9 million then.
Not nothing, certainly, quite a lot. Yeah. We're criticising him constantly. It's been 48 minutes of criticism for Acun. I'm not saying I've not got anything good to say about him at the moment, but are we all not? Are we all still Acun in, or at least Acun?
Yeah, no, you can still like the guy, but criticise what he's doing. Just as you can, no one is exempt from criticism just because he's come in and done amazing. I love Acun. I just think he just needs to admit that this season's probably been a bit of a waste on his part.
He needs help around him. He needs clever football people around him, which we thought Tan was until, allegedly, etc. Blah blah blah.
Allegedly.
Not sure what I can say, but I
think as well, just because I think it needs to be clarified, because I've faced this criticism over the weekend and in the summer as well. Just because we slag off the way the transfers have been done or the way he's running the football club as a footballing operation, strictly on pitch and who's the manager and stuff like that, doesn't mean as fans we cannot benefit from reduced ticket prices or the members' events,
free
and stuff
travel,
like that.
Holidays to Turkey.
It was a criticism I had when I went to Turkey with the club in the summer that because I slagged Acun off as a matter of principle, I shouldn't take the holiday. And someone said the same thing to me at the weekend.
No one's that principle that you turn down a free holiday. Come on.
Yeah, it's a once in a lifetime thing. Of course, I'm going to take it. I'm going on holiday, all paid for by the football club I love. Of course, I'm going to enter it, and of course, I'm going to win. And
he's not told us fans to die, and he's still spending money on the club to sign
and
players.
The club's still called Hull City.
Yeah, but that's pretty good, to be honest, considering.
So,
look, when he signs a big money striker in January, which I think maybe we'll try and do, and
that old chestnut.
We'll be happy. Well, I think the thing is, the issue in January wasn't that we didn't have the money to spend, because the amount of deals which he agreed with clubs to sign, $5 million on Conway, few on Thomas Asante and Kiefer Moore. Clearly, it's not like edging out because he doesn't want to sign players. It's going wrong, but he's throwing stuff at the wall, seeing what sticks. Some of that's going to be good. It just needs someone like Tan Kessler, but allegedly not a criminal, blah, blah, blah.
This summer looked, though, like a step in the right direction, didn't it? It did. Less like the first one of just a scattergun. And it also looked like less of the last seasons where it's built on loans. But it still feels like it failed, even though at the time we said it, we commended him because, well, we were crying out for more longer term thinking. And in the loan players we brought in, they've all got options in there, bar Burns and Rushworth. And we looked to have a focus anyway on permanent deals. Drama, Hughes, Alzate, but we haven't seen the fruits of that labour yet. They've not managed to put a run of wins together properly. So it just seems like he tried long-term thinking and we've not seen the reward for it. So it's an incredibly weird time to be a Hull City fan at the moment. And I get the feeling January is going to be more of the, as Christian says there, it's just going to be try and chuck money at it for the want of, well, it'll work. But
for strikers especially, everyone's after a goal scorer in January for two reasons, either to get you into the playoffs, to get you promoted, or even just to keep you in the league. Everyone's after the same players in January. So you end up having to pay, like Sora just said, like it's in terms of we're now going to have to suffer because we didn't get it done in summer, and he's going to have to spend more money getting somebody in January for that reason. And if we sign another striker, we've got now 4 strikers, and we only play with 1, so we're overloading ourselves again in a position, like because we didn't get the business done early, and he's gone, oh, we'll have to take what's available. So we brought in Bedia and Pedro. Pedro, I think, looks a good poacher, by the way, but like Joe said earlier, he's getting on. He's not going to last 90 minutes every single game, Sunday, Tuesday, like Saturday, Wednesday, whatever combination ends up being in the championship. He's going to struggle over 46 games, so you're going to need another player out there that's going to be able to support him rotationally. Like Bedia, to me, I like his hold-up play, but is he a natural goal scorer? He doesn't look like it. Burster, I think, actually played really well on the wing against West Brom, but again, is he a natural goal scorer? His record suggests probably not. So, if we're going to bring in a striker, then one of them's going to probably have to go. Do we send Burster out on loan? Do we send Bedia back? Like, it creates problems because we didn't get it done in the summer. The first thing we should have done in summer was sign a striker, then build the rest of the team around it. Like, it got too late in the window, and we can't. If a lot of the signings, Finn Burns, he's another one. It's just a lot of the signings suggest to me it was like, oh, let's just get him in because we need players, and then. Now they end up playing. We're paying Finn Burns his wages, and he's not even playing. Like he's a waste of a loan spell. Like even if you now keep him as a centre back, there's no point because why is Andy Smith not getting a look in? Like there's a lot of money we're spending on players that we don't need to. It's just every transfer window is stressful as a City fan because we're not a club that seems to have it sorted in terms of what we're actually planning on doing. Your signing should be prepared way before, months before the window. So as soon as you're getting into the window, you're already knowing who you're ringing, who you're sorting out. Get it sorted, and we just don't. We seem to just get transfer window open, loads of alarm bells go off in the offices of the MKM, and everyone runs around and starts throwing paper in the air and going and just phoning people. It's just chaos, isn't it?
Yeah.
And on that note.
Well, we can predict the Luton game, but I don't really want to analyse it because I think it's an El Sacco definitely, even though maybe it isn't. Because he said that if we lose the next match, he wants to keep Volta for a bit. So I guess it's not an El Sacco, it's just for Edwards at Luton. I
Rob
don't
Edwards,
see anything other than a loss.
For Rob Edwards, it's an El Sacco for him. It's he has to win to keep his job, and I can't see any other eventuality than Luton winning that game. Although they've not been great. In fact, the table says they've been worse than us by a couple of goals. But
somehow
we just don't look like we can win a game, and
We gave
Kennel
Oxford and West Brom their wins after a winless run. Yeah.
No, what we do look like is we'll give them a good first half, miss loads of really good chances, concede an absolutely horrendous goal early in the second half, and then just not recover.
Yeah.
Yep.
I preferred the
On the wall.
Rossinia run of play where we'd dominate the possession, concede an early goal, and then equalise in the 70th minute. At least that was a draw rather than a loss. Much preferred that.
I mean, there's
Here
a
we
lot of
are,
people saying that we are actually having the attacking football and stuff, and the amount of shots we're having. How many shots are actually decent chances? Majority of them are from like range or stupid angles. So we're not really creating that many solid chances. Maybe 2 or 3 a game. It's not as exciting or attacking as I think we were promised. I think that's the biggest irk with a lot of fans is, are we really more excited than last season? Personally, no. I think some of the games are a little bit better to watch because it's so open. Like, it's not good to watch because we're playing well or winning games, but because the other team are coming on to us and there's loads of chances, like, it makes a bit more of an entertaining watch than watching two teams sit back and just pass it amongst each other for 90 minutes. But it's certainly not more attacking. And that's the problem when you're not keeping clean sheets. We have to score 2 at minimum to win. And
well, that's the thing with Tim saying, when Baz has asked him, look, you're not keeping clean sheets. What are you going to do about it? Tim goes, nothing. We'll just outscore them. But you're not outscoring them. We can see 1 goal a game. That means automatically we have to score 2. And we're averaging just over 1 goal a game at the moment. And when you round that down, that's a goal a game. And if you're
every game,
if you're scoring 1 but conceding 1, then you're not going to win a game. If you're scoring 1, conceding more than 1, this is how football works. I'm being very Michael Owen here. You're not going to win a game of football.
Pretty simple, isn't it? Yeah.
If you score less goals than you concede, if you concede more goals than you score, then you're not going to win a game.
Mm-hmm.
That's just how it goes. How many times have we scored more than 2 goals in a game this season?
Well, it's just those 3, isn't it?
Cardiff, QPR. Is that the 3? I think so.
That's it. Yeah.
2 3s and a 4. He just, in principle, you can say that if you're 1 playing FIFA or 2 banging 2, 3 plus goals past teams every single week, but we're not.
I don't think that's possible with this lineup we've got. You know, that's the very top team's going to do, like Leicester or Southampton or something, with all the money they can spend. But with Bedia, Pedro, I don't see that being possible. If we want to skip ahead to predictions for the Luton game, I'm going to go an optimistic 3-0 Luton win.
We're actually better away from home, though, aren't we?
Well, we are actually, just about.
I'm conflicted because part of me thinks that we're going to get absolutely.
Oh, we're not going to. We're not. No.
When you look at it from Rob Edwards' perspective, right, they'll be looking at us and going, right, these are on the ropes. This is a massive opportunity for us to turn our season around. And I think when you look at like Oxford, who were on a really bad run, they'll have probably been saying the same thing and got a win. West Brom, who were on a really bad run, were probably saying the same thing, and it's happened. So I think Rob Edwards will be going, look, these are really struggling, and we need to capitalise. I think he'll put absolutely everything on it because he's a guy who will change it to try and win the game. We know now, and will always, that he's not going to change, Volta. We're going to play the exact same way, probably make 7 or 8 changes and question half of them and be like, why? I think that's part of the problem as well, is we've got no consistent starting 11, so there's no consistency in the performances because they're not the same players every week, different players, different positions, our position, whatever. But we are better away from home, so I think Luton win, but I think we give them a decent game. I think it'll be 2-1 Luton, but it's still not good enough, is it? Probably puts us in the bottom 3 as well.
Yeah. I agree with the sentiment of what Ant said, but the scoreline different. I think it'll be 3-1 to Luton. And just while we're here, Ethereum has said in chat that there's an argument for starting Rushworth or giving Rachopi another chance. I think this brings us back to Acun's interview just to finish. He is saying that Carl Rushworth's injury, a goalkeeper who hasn't even played, is part of the reason why we're not winning games. But 1, he's not played, and 2, last year Ivor Panda was the messiah, and he's the reason we're not in the bottom three because he pulls out 2 or 3 worldy saves every game.
That's
Panda, I think, is our player of the season. So I don't know how you can justify dropping Panda for anybody. I know Rushworth was one of the, if not statistically, the best goalkeeper in the league last season, but he's not played for us yet, so we don't know anything about Rushworth this season, and if we'd have been better or worse off is all hypothetical. What we do know is that on the pitch, from what we've seen so far, Panda is, especially at QPR away, for example, we wouldn't have even won that game if it wasn't for his interventions early on in the game. Multiple amazing saves that he's made game upon game that have probably kept the scores down and kept us in games longer. Yes,
2 or 3
distribution not the best, but shot stopping, unbelievable this season, Panda.
2 or 3 every game. He's made one mistake, and that was against Derby, where he got his positioning slightly wrong. I mean, I don't see why you can drop Panda. And considering Acun blew so much smoke up his backside last year, it's a massive backhand to the left cheek if now Carl Rushworth is the reason we're not winning games.
In the top 3 in the league statistically for goals prevented as well, Panda. So
I'd have to check.
Goalkeeper's main job. It's goalkeeper's main job, isn't it? I'd say.
It is. So I'd have to check that, Ant, but it sounds plausible.
A bit of me dies inside every time I remember Ryan Alsop.
Who is now bench warming in League One.
League One. Oh. I don't want to be too cruel to any players, but Alsop was garbage. Bless him. Doesn't mean he's a bad person, and he can prove me wrong, and you're going to make a whole lot more money than I'm ever going to do in my whole life, and achieve more. But he was awful.
Yeah, but that's the thing. But last season, you could have said the reverse about Alsop. His shot stopping was woeful, but his passing was mint, and that's the only reason he kept his position. And arguably, probably lost us. I think I can remember at least 8 or 9 points were dropped because of Alsop.
Acun reckons Alsop cost us 10 points on his own.
Realistically, the goalkeeper's job is to stop the ball from going in the net. I don't care if he can't pass it. Just stop the ball from going in the net. And that's what Panda's doing, and I'm fine with that. If there was a shot on target against Alsop last season, it was in.
He rode that high against Leeds for quite a long time, didn't he? His debut was great.
Passing's meant to be for outfield players. I mean, admittedly, this system is very, very adamant on.
If a goalkeeper can punt the ball, down the length of the pitch, a centre back can.
Yeah,
but a centre back can't save a shot with her arms.
But again, that comes into why if Panda's passing isn't that great, then why are we still playing a system that requires him to keep passing the ball?
And why do we keep playing him if Rachopi's better at that?
A good manager would look at that and go, yeah, maybe we shouldn't do that because that's a weakness. That's a cause for potentially conceding. But he doesn't, because the style of play is not the problem. It's the players. It's crazy. I love Walter. Lifetime contract.
Oh, God forbid.
Well, on that bombshell, shall we wrap it up?
Yeah, it's time to
really
end.
Positive podcast, guys. Yeah, really.
Yeah, I mean,
see you next week for more.
I thought we weren't going to have much to talk about, but we've gone over an hour again. It's just
going for 40 minutes.
It's dark times, isn't it? It's dark times. Yeah. Well, hopefully London will score some goals and we'll be.
Hopefully it all clicks, and then in January time we're saying how stupid we all look for being this irate on every single episode about him, and that it literally was just a matter of time. But all fans can go off is what you see on the pitch and patterns. And we've had 1 clean sheet all season, 3 wins all season against 3 teams that were in really bad positions at the time. And it's just, do you see us really getting to that point where we click? Does it look like it's going to click for us? I don't think it is. And that's the problem. And this international break realistically was the last realistic opportunity to have decent time to replace the manager and sort of admit a failing, but we've not. We're stuck with him, so now it's from over the festive, which is probably the most important part of the season, is this festive busy period. We're going to have Tim Volta, so strap in.
Lovely.
Strap in.
Oh, Joe, and thanks very much for joining me. We've had lots of great comments. The last few episodes I've been struggling to keep up with them all because we've had so many. So thank you everyone for all of those. And as we approach the festive period, hopefully we can have a bit more cheer supporting Hull City. So thanks again, and we'll be back next week.